Interesting. So with that, I would like to invite our next star speaker, Mr. A.S. Kiran Kumar, ex-chairman ISRO, who will tell us rising from constraints and making innovation happen. Ladies and gents, please.
Good morning to all of you. It's indeed a great privilege to be present here today, speaking to you about what India has done through ISRO. And we just heard, both in terms of AI and also how Gopal Krishnan also mentioned, things are changing and things are happening in the country. Probably one of the key things we need to appreciate is the technology is bringing in newer and newer capabilities, and use of technology is changing the way we live our lives in the society. And in this process, if you look at India, 1957, when the first object was put into space by Russians, humanity got a new way of dealing with things, a new technological capability, a disruptive technology in many ways. And at that time, while the two superpowers were competing with each other to demonstrate who is mightier, we had great visionary scientists in this country who could look at how a fledgling democracy can make use of technology and solve problems which are relevant to us. So what Dr. Sarabhai did was, he could convince his friends across the globe and brought sounding rockets in the form of kits, got it assembled in Tumba Equatorial Rocket Launching Site, telling them that if you do upper atmospheric research near geomagnetic equator, the world is going to benefit, scientific world is going to benefit. And through that process, started the activity in the country. The first sounding rocket, which was launched on 1963, just a few days back, we celebrated the 60 years of this. For doing that, he had to convince the fishermen in that location, you vacate this place today for us to conduct these experiments. One day the country will benefit. As though what was promised to the fishermen was to be demonstrated, 1999 onwards, India was able to provide, by looking at the color of the ocean through the space, identifying the chlorophyll, and through that the food chain of the fish, and tell the fisherman where he has to go for fishing. In fact, this act alone saves to the country between 10 to 15,000 crores a year. Again, today with our navigation satellites, which is again a very innovative outcome, where world is using, Americans, Russians, Europeans and Chinese are using 24 to 32 satellite constellation. We came up with a 7 satellite constellation for providing the solution to the country. And many of you also know the reason why that thought process came. But then today, with a small battery operated gadget, is fitted into the boat of the fisherman. And when he is in the ocean, through the NAVIC satellite, not only the gadget locates itself, but also get the prospective fishing zone information in latitude, longitude. And then the mobile in the hands of the fisherman, which does not have any connectivity to the terrestrial tower, but is linked to the gadget through Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, gives him in a video compass mode where he has to go for fishing, and tells in his mother tongue how the weather vagaries are going to affect him in the coming days, and sea state roughness is going to be unbearable. So here you see the example of a person who does not know reading or writing is getting the benefit of the most advanced technology of a launch vehicle, satellite applications being brought into reality. And what ISRO did right from the beginning, if you're looking at, use the technology that is available or accessible to you and provide specific solutions to the problems we are facing in the country. In a very similar manner, in 1975, when the first one of the advanced technology satellites built by Americans were borrowed by us and demonstrated in the country, that the way to go for the broadcasting, communication, and also meteorology is through use of space technology. The point I'm trying to emphasize here is the science technology goes on bringing newer and newer capabilities, but then what we need to do in our place is make use of what is available to you and address specifically the problems we are facing. So in that context, today you are aware, whether it is communication, navigation, weather monitoring, or even crop forecasting, crop assessment, or even getting into space. In all these activities, India has shown to the world that it is capable of adapting the new technologies, disruptive technologies, and can deliver in spite of the constraints that exist, in spite of the limitations that are there. If you make up your mind and put a dedicated effort, you can make huge difference to the society. And today you have also seen that India has demonstrated by going to moon and landing on a part of the moon which is for the first time by anybody in the world. And also when it did the Mars mission, it showed that you can do with very limited resources and cost, adapting new ways of doing things, you can make things happen. And also there are many examples, umpteen examples. One of the thing is, you are very much aware that in research, many times there are concepts and there are ideas which can produce the outcome. But then at that point of time when the idea is conceived, enabling technologies are not there. And it is another thing to identify when new enabling technologies come, how an old idea can give you a new solution. Just to showcase to you an example, between 95 and 99, India produced, were in the civilian domain, the highest spatial technology imaging from space. And because of that, between 95 and 99, India had the privilege of almost having 18 ground stations across the world and providing data to the world community. This was achieved because a concept of a very compact telescope, which existed in literature, had not been attempted by anybody, because the enabling technology of maybe 5-axis robo machine, which can convert a glass into the requisite mathematical surface to the precision of few nanometers, was not available. And then when we looked at the problem, we found that the enabling technologies are there, testing methodologies have evolved, and because of that, we could bring in a very compact telescope, and as a result of that, we were able to go ahead of others in the civilian domain. This kind of thing, what it shows is the constraint. And also Chris Gopalakrishnan, when he was talking about, he talked about leapfrogging. And in fact, Dr. Sarabhai and ISRO has always shown how leapfrogging is possible, and it has shown. For example, if you are looking at what exactly is leapfrogging, see, if you want to jump a particular height, let's say as a high jumper, what you do is you prepare yourself, build the momentum by running over a distance of some distance, and then make this jump. But if you do not have that kind of space for doing it, that kind of space for preparing yourself, what do? What a frog does: conserve all its energy and in one go tries and jump. That is leapfrogging. And that is what ISRO has shown in many examples. And today it is more than essential, simply because in terms of purely technology, when you are looking at, technology is always going ahead, and there are people who are making it happen because they have the wherewithal, resources, and the way of doing it. But then for us, this leading in technology can always be a problem. But again, what India has shown, whether it is in the software sector or in the COVID times, always you make use of the technology accessible to you and make use of your intellectual capability to find solutions in a manner which is very different. And if in this context, if we look at what has been happening, we need to worry about it in some ways. See, today, if you look at, maybe I'll just touch upon one point and then close my narrative. See, way back in the first industrialization period, what was happening was we were a colonized country. The physical raw material from here, whether it is cotton, iron ore, or you name it, all of that was taken out and infrastructure established elsewhere, converted this into finished products, and again it was brought back, and we were at the receiving end of that. Today we are 75 years into independence, fifth largest economy. We have landed on moon, and large number of activities. The digital stack, we are showing a way to the world, breaking the backbone of the credit card system and other things. But then if you ask the question, is the situation any different from what was happening in the first industrialization period? Each of you may have your own views on it. But the way I look at it is, the physical raw material which has been replaced by the intellectual capability of individuals and people who stayed back in the country and those who went out of the country. Infrastructure established elsewhere has converted this into finished products, and the finished product this time is being made to be consumed not only by Indians but across the globe, maybe except China, because reason. But then what I'm trying to impress upon is the gadget we carry in our hand is used as a tool to make us consume what is being produced with the intellectual capability. The manner in which it is happening is so enormous that unless we find effective solutions, maybe there are other ways of this kind of colonization happening. But I see also light at the end of the tunnel, because the manner in which India dealt with COVID and the India is dealing with currently the digital stack shows that India looks at the problems with a very different perspective. It is looking at with a perspective where humanity in its entirety and human life, if it has to sustain on planet Earth, it requires all other forms of life, and we need to actually respect nature. And here, development at any cost is not the solution. Development, keeping in mind the values, the core values, and the sustenance of life is also important. Maybe I'll end my talk with one example of how India has shown this to the world. Recently, one Dr. Balsubramaniam, who came out of the medical college as a fresh graduate, along with a few friends of his, actually set up an institute for supporting the tribals in this country, tribals education and tribal healthcare. In one of the books what he has written, Voices from the Grassroots, he gives examples of the core values of the land. One tribal father and son, they are going along with Subramaniam in the forest. Now the son climbs a tree. There is a beehive on top of the tree. Now the idea of the son is to actually capture a portion of the bee, that honey. So he climbs the tree and puts a blanket on himself, picks the queen bee, puts it on his shoulder. All the bees come onto his body. With a sickle in his hand, he chops off 1/4 of the beehive, which is collected by the father on the ground. And then the son puts the queen bee back, and then all the bees go. He comes down. Now the professor is also, Subramaniam is also a management professor, who asks, see, we teach everybody we should maximize the returns of what we are doing. But here I am seeing all the effort your son has put. He chopped off only 1/4 and left the rest there. What the father told him is, see, as it is, we are eating into the fruits of labor of the bees. We are taking it only for our specific requirement of the health or medicinal value for the children. So we should not over-exploit. So again, if sustenance is required, we should not over-exploit is the key theme of this land. And in this context, what Gopal Krishnan also has shown is very relevant. While data, whatever the gadget we are carrying, has been used for effectively pooling data of the entire globe and come up with huge models and the solutions being sent everywhere, whether it works for that region or not, at least we need to validate. And if for that validation also we have a problem, because you don't get access to that data. So the solution to that is making it happen here, and that's where probably I was also extremely happy to see the kind of exercise that is being done in research on various aspects. So in a nutshell, the constraints gives you an opportunity to make things happen differently. But if you are committed and if you want to make things happen, you can make it happen irrespective of whatever constraints you get. And all of that, when it is supported with the basic value system of sustaining life for betterment of humanity, then the India can show the solution in a very different manner. I really thank and appreciate Pan IIT for bringing all of the people together and then looking at what India needs to do in the coming decades and maybe centuries for providing better life on planet Earth. Thank you.